Welcome to Sandoval Video Box. This is a live stream of the March 2022 Sandoval Board of Directors meeting from the Sandoval Clubhouse. Viewing of this meeting is available at your convenience 24/7 on the YouTube channel, Sandoval Video Box, and Sandoval's website, www.livesandoval.com. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to support Sandoval Video Box on YouTube by clicking both the subscribe button and bell to be notified of future meetings and presentations. The meeting will begin shortly. If you, the viewers, have any comments or recommendations you would like to see in future live streams, email your comments to sandovalvideobox@gmail.com. Sandoval Video Box thanks you for your support by subscribing and your participation by watching this meeting.
You touch our mic.
If we'll stand now for the pledge to the flag.
Oh, shit.
Open it up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we're going to call the March 24th meeting to order, and we need to establish quorum of the board. Todd Reinhardt.
Present.
Dave Saganek.
Present.
Marilyn Stout. Here. Kathleen Falastini here. Mr. Elkins.
Here.
Stan Toro.
Here.
Grady.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Is the mic on? Vic?
I hear me.
Yes.
Oh, you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Kathy, could I have the list? Next, we're going to start with the resident comments, and I just wanted to... There are none. There are none. Okay. Well, let me give you my reminder anyway. We are having our quarterly resident forum, April 6th, where you can come, we can come, and ask any questions that you want. And they'll try to be answered that evening or later after that if there's research involved. So that's April 6th. Next item is approval of the board minutes from February 24th. Members had a chance to review that.
Yes.
Any
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we have to do all in favor? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the organizational meeting on March 10th minutes. Anybody have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? No. Okay. Board President report. That's me. Kathleen Falastini. 2 weeks on the job. Not much to report, but I want to start off, and forgive me for using this from JFK, ask not what your HOA can do for you, but what can you do for your HOA. Kathy put out a blast on more than one occasion asking for residents to volunteer for committees, and we had about 18 responses, and most of those people are already on committees. So we're going to keep sending them out to generate more people, more interest. So my efforts this year will be divided by the many duties as a director on the board, president, but I want to mend any divisiveness, apathy in the community. And I invite and encourage and challenge everyone to be part of the solutions and not just talk or post about the issues. Let's hear some suggestions. Let's see more action. Kathy Krieger, our new GM, has been instrumental in many improvements. She literally hit the ground running as she walked the 18-mile perimeter of Sandoval, investigating numerous landscaping issues. Her days often begin after 6 a.m. and last well past 5 to somewhere 7 or 8 p.m. Kathy is to be commended for her staunch efforts, meeting many of the demands awaiting for her every day, making herself available to the residents in between hiring and training staff, and putting out fires left and right. Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to acknowledge Ron Spooner, Melanie Palmer, and Kathy Conway for answering their call to volunteer countless of hours serving on the board and committees. And they did very well during very difficult times, especially during the COVID upset. So thank you to everybody, and you're going to be a hard act to follow. I'm happy to make this announcement. The ceiling fans have been ordered, so that's good news. Soon we will be looking at reestablishing neighborhood representatives. We have increased patrol in the community for behaviors unbecoming of Sandoval residents and their guests. These new patrols will continue until these events are eradicated. We've ordered new parts and repairs for the gates. Thank you, Rick, for all your effort and all the work and blood, sweat, and tears put into it. Our Covenants Committee will begin again under the direction of Terrence Battle, our new compliance director. So just as a hint, when we're out and about in our yards, putting away our garden hoses where they belong, checking our roofs and driveways for mildew, and removing any garden gnomes or flags that shouldn't be there, me included, and verifying if your solar lights are in compliance with our ARC design review standards. Make sure your irrigation supply cover is in place on your lawn so no one trips into the hole and injures themselves. So these were a bunch of things that people asked me to speak about. So that's that little round green thing that often gets, when you have the lawn mowing service, it often gets pushed into the little box. Just make sure that that's covered well. And if it's broken, try and call the city. I did, they won't, they refuse. But if enough people call, maybe they'll start giving us new ones if they're broken. The last and only thing that I have to talk to you about tonight are committee liaisons, and I asked everyone for their choices, and we have come up with the following board director liaisons for the committees. ARC is Grady, Communications, Marilyn, Clubhouse Design, Marilyn, Covenants will be me, Finance will be Dave, Lakes will be John, Landscape, Grady, Neighborhood Reps will be me, Risk Management, Todd, Safety and Security, Stan, Social will be Marilyn, Special Projects / Amenities, John, Traffic will be Stan, and Reserve Study will be Todd. That's all I have for the President's report. I look forward to working with everybody, and my email is listed on our website. So if you have any concerns, first go to Kathy, and if you need to, you're please more than welcome to contact any of us. Thank you. Can I go home now? No, just kidding. Board Treasurer's report, Mr. Dave Saganek.
Thank you, Kathy. So this is the Treasurer's report for the board meeting of March 24th, 2022. I'll start by saying no financial position or guarantees, past, present, or forward, are to be granted by me, and no investment advice is given. 3 areas of the topics that I will be reporting on in this report are, number 1, the January 22 month-end financials, FDIC, and the reserve study. Topic 1, January 22 month-end financials were received on 3/22/22. The Finance Committee and Treasurer unfortunately were not able to adequately review those financials since there was insufficient time to prepare for this board meeting. Board practices have been to provide allowable time for the Finance Committee and the Treasurer, adequate time to review the financials with the intent of providing comments. In the future, I expect allowable time will be available to review month-end financials. We are in the midst of our year-end audit being prepared, which may, in fact, add substance to the January 2022 month-end preliminary financials. The Treasurer report of February 24, 2022 called attention to the need to wait on that audit, which I copied below. Quote, "We will have to wait on the completion of our year-end audit to see the magnitude of unrecorded liabilities on the First Service financials," and I quoted the section 1C3 of the Treasurer's report of 2/24/22. And now, that is not to say we should be passive in our actions. We can proceed forward, ask questions, understand, review, and make comments on the January 22 month-end preliminary financials with the assistance and cooperation between our management team, myself, and our finance committee. I expect the year-end audit will be completed in a few days. Just an update to this, I prepared this report, and then I received an email from Tony Gregory, our auditor. That should be ready in a few days. So that's why I included that. Topic 2, FDIC. I call your attention to an addendum that was included as the last page of the aforementioned report. It speaks for itself on the need for FDI insurance as shown below. We noticed quote, we noticed a potential for uninsured cash balances over the FDIC coverage limit, and this was associated addendum to the preliminary financials that we received dated January 31, 2022, financials which we received March 22. We do have a policy in our bylaws, which I'm providing below on 6-1 depository. The association shall maintain its accounts in federally insured accounts at financial institutions doing business in the state of Florida as may be designated from time to time by the board. Now I have to take a breath on that because that's a long sentence. Withdrawals of monies from such accounts shall only be by such persons as are authorized by the board. The board may invest association funds in interest-bearing accounts, money market funds, certificates of deposit, U.S. government securities, and other similar investment vehicles, provided they are federally insured or backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. Second page here. If the board is to invest in association funds, there needs to be a clear direction on a strategy. The strategy must begin, with naming specific accounts or an account with a specific dollar amount allocation to these accounts, to each account. From there, we can put the task to our finance committee working in conjunction with our management team resources to develop a strategic program that adheres to, without exception, our depository bylaw. Topic 3, our current reserve study dates back to May 2019. The economic landscape has changed during this period. For example, inflation has driven up the cost for replacement and repair of virtually all items contained in the 2019 reserve study. Past board practice was to refresh the reserve study on a 3-year rotation. If we are to continue the 3-year rotation practice, that means we need to retain an architectural engineering firm rather quickly. Reserve Advisors is the firm that completed our last study. However, it is the board's decision to retain that firm or a similar qualified firm equipped to deliver a professional reserve work product. The board may consider forming an ad hoc committee working alongside our management team to search out qualified firms. Our common area elements have also undergone substantial change in growth. For instance, we have a new clubhouse to consider, along with an aging infrastructure that will go into updating the reserve study document. The study takes into consideration the time value of money and a, quote, best guess, unquote, replacement period for things like roads, buildings, fences, to name a few. It also calls for a decision on an assumed rate of return and an inflation rate, both of which play an important part in the calculations. The current finance charter allows support from the Finance Committee to report findings back to the board. I will be happy to participate with the team in the reserve study process. This is the end of the Treasurer's report. You're welcome.
It is the ARC appeal by Paulo Zotolo. Just 1 second, Paula. We have in the board packet, all of the paperwork. Okay. I just want to get my paperwork. Yeah, no problem. Everybody ready?
Yeah, her written statement is in there as well.
Okay. Go ahead.
need to replace the roof in my property because of damage, and I chose a color that is different than the current color that was the original color that came with the property. So I submitted a request to the ARC with my color, and I received an answer saying that it was benched because I was choosing a cool color tile for the roof to combine it with a warm color for my walls. So since the beginning, I asked for the written information on what the requirements are for the colors or what the options are, what can be combined or not. I was never really able to get anything besides what's available on the website, which I couldn't find anything saying you can use this color or not. So that information was never provided. I don't know if it exists. It appears like it doesn't exist. So after the benching, I had some communication with Kathy, with the ARC. We decided that I was going to come over and meet with the ARC, which happened last Saturday. So we had a nice conversation. I explained my issues again. I explained why I want my color and what I'm basing the request on. Comparing to other houses in Sandoval, I'm not asking for anything that is not already in the community. So if I'm interpreting the answer correctly, and Grady can correct me if I'm not, but this is what I took from the answer, is because there isn't anything in writing basically to deny my request. The ARC was not comfortable making a decision, and they asked me to appeal with the board to see if you guys would make the decision because they didn't want to make the decision. So at that point, it was denied so that I could appeal. So I wanted to, unfortunately, I did this. I have a lot of work, so I did this. This today. I don't know who can see it or not, but I can come around. But this is how my property looks like right now. So that's the color that is here on this chip. One of the concerns I have is my property is exactly the same color as the other property next to me on one side. So right now, we both have the same color walls, and so this is the house next door, and this is mine. We both have the same wall colors, the same roof, and those were the original colors that came when the houses were built. I bought my house in 2012 when it was already built, so that was not my choice. They were like that. So I'm asking to replace my roof with this color. First of all, because I don't like the kind of colors that the roofs are. I don't like those colors personally. Second, that would make it different from the house next door because right now they look like twins.
Continue at the microphone. It'll be better. At the microphone.
It'd be better
Continue
at the
microphone if you would.
Well,
Sorry.
I have other pictures that
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So that is the house on one of my sides. On the other side, this is the house that is there. That house used to have a warm color wall outside, and they were approved to switch to this sea salt color, which is kind of like a grayish bluish color. So at that time, they got approved to change the wall colors. They didn't make them change the roof. That was in a tan tone because it was a warm color. Nobody said you have to change the roof to make it a cool color or whatever. Because that's basically the answer I got the first time from the ARC. You're trying to combine a cool color tile with a warm color wall. So I'm here to show that there's plenty of houses in Sandoval that have that combination. So I can't really see why my house cannot have that combination, honestly.
Who's the ARC?
But this is the house next door that was allowed to change the same color, keeping their brown roof.
Is the interface to ARC?
This is another house on the same street, 2 or 3 houses over, that has exactly the same combination. It has the sea salt wall color, and it has a brown roof. Now, these are other houses. I understand that I can compare with other neighborhoods because we go on a neighborhood basis, but these are other houses all around Sandoval. I have many samples that have a one color wall with a gray roof. There's plenty to look at. the houses that I found on the neighborhoods from phase 1 and phase 2 that have that type of combination as well. So what I'm requesting is that, I guess, I don't want to see an exception is made because there's nothing in writing that would prevent me from doing that. But since there's nothing in writing saying that I could do that either, you know, somebody has to make a decision. If the board wants to modify the regulations later to say, well, you can't combine this or that, I'm fine with that, but I can't wait because I've been already at it for a few months. My roof needs to be replaced. It's damaged. I have the risk of getting water inside the house at this point because it's been like that for months. And the other thing is, if some changes were approved for some other neighbors, I don't understand why, if I'm asking for a similar combination, I can't get the approval myself. One of the answers I got is a lot of people have done stuff without getting approval, and because I'm going through the correct route by asking an approval, I'm the one that is not getting it. I don't understand all of that. I'm respectfully asking that, you know, you can see that I'm not asking for anything crazy. It doesn't go against the look of Sandoval. Even the Pelican Clubhouse has a great roof with a warm color wall. So I'm just asking that you guys approve the exception, and then moving on from there, if there's more regulation that needs to be written or more detail so that the ARC doesn't have to run through this problem, because I also understand they're sitting there, they're neighbors, and they have to make a decision that is not in writing. So, you know, I probably wouldn't be comfortable either, you know, groundbreaking on something that is not written. But so that's what I'm here for.
I feel great sympathy for you having to replace your roof. I know that's very expensive.
It is what it is.
I know when we all came here, we knew we were joining an HOA that had rules and covenants, and I'm certainly not a great at artistic coloring. My wife is, but I'm not. So I have to rely on the ARC committee for their recommendation. I don't think this is a board decision, because the ARC committee is chosen by people that really know the rules, and so I'd like to know what the ARC committee's recommendation is.
The committee decided to deny her request.
Well, she said that they did not, that they
she
were
did say they
deferring
denied
it to us.
Right.
They denied it so she could bring it to you.
Right. And the process typically is that if...
Can you say why it was denied?
Yes. The architectural standards is the only thing that we can go on. And I think that specifically, it leaves it as a judgment item, and that's our concern. So at this point, we have two things that I think that probably need to happen here. First, the board as a whole needs to vote as to whether this specific example can be approved or not. And the other is, do we need to put added verbiage in our guidelines that talk about the color combinations for the roof and the walls of the home?
How does that apply to this case?
It doesn't exist yet. The only thing that the DRG, the guidelines, the bylaws indicate is that it's an architectural standard, and this is basically left up to the ARC committee.
Why did the ARC committee deny it, Swell?
When you go back to the original color choices by the developers of the community, they had warm tones with warm tones, cool tones with cool tones. And that's basically it. Hers is both are very muted colors in her particular instance. But if you're going by the spirit of the rules that are written, I can see where there is a gray area. But the letter of this indicates that, you know, it's a judgment call, and so we have to go back to what was originally developed. And what was originally developed was warm with warm and cool with cool.
I would hate to overturn the ARC committee's recommendation. I don't know how you felt there.
If I may add something, I understand what
We're
Brady's
talking
saying. I respect that. Even though the original guidelines said that warm with warm, cool with cool, there have been houses that were allowed to change the paint color that was never used on Bellingham, because now we can use colors that are around the community.
You're referring to paint color being changed, correct? Not roof colors. And
Yeah, but that created a combination of a warm roof with a cool wall,
Right,
which is
but-
what the problem has been.
But the
again.
bylaws did allow, if I'm correct, there was a change, the board of directors changed that any house could have any color so long as it wasn't already painted on either side of their house. And it could have any color, but it did not approve any roof color. So I wanted to make sure that that's not something that you're confusing. The paint color, we're allowed to choose whatever paint color we want now.
But-
No, I understand that part. However, the first reason I was given by the ARC was that it was benched because I was combining a cool color with a warm color. And what I'm saying is there's other houses in Bellingham that ended up having that because they were allowed to change the paint color. So now they have a cool color with a warm color.
Okay.
And-
I need to.
And to avoid this being open this up to a debate, I apologize. I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, that's fine.
But really, we have all the information, and I think that in looking at this and having heard what John said and what you said, this really is two parts. I mean, if the decision is to deny Paula, we still need to determine is this going to take the same route that the change in rules on the paint colors took.
Well, my problem is that I don't think the board should be doing this. I don't think it should come to the board. I think our committee is there to make these decisions, and you're far better qualified, I think, than me. So I don't want to have to make this decision. I don't. It's not that I don't care. It's just I want to respect our committees. We need to give our committees better support.
Well, you have the answer from the committee, but I do think that it bears repeating that this is something that we need to revisit as to allow whether we're going to allow changing color of the roof
Would that
tiles.
revisiting result in approval of this request?
That would be determined by what the board decides.
Well, I know. Give me your best shot.
Well, we'd have to submit, just like we did with the paint colors, the request, and the board would have to vote on that as well. So I'm not sure I understand what we need to do at this point. Deny what she's asking, then have a discussion and a motion for making a change for the roof tiles. Todd?
Stan, do you have any? Oh, Todd, did you have your hand up? Sorry, I was going down the line. Go ahead. We'll start that way.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks for doing your homework. That was a fantastic presentation, and you did your homework. And I appreciate everybody's comment. I would suggest that I would make a motion that we approve this request. And then the second part of that is if we need to tighten up what the perception of the rule is, send it back to ARC and have them come up with some real solid direction. But in her particular case, I would support and I will make the motion that we approve her request. And the second part of that it goes back to ARC with some more fine tuning of what should happen. That would be my motion.
And I'll second it. Can I share with
Discussion, yes.
Yeah.
I can understand wanting to make a change if the house next door is exactly the same. It's more like a row house if you have all of these houses that look like, that are the same. So I can understand her desire to make the change, and that's why I seconded.
Dave?
So I happen to live on Bellingham. So there are many homes that have gray roofs. There are many homes in this community, 6, 7 in a row, that have red roofs with all sorts of colors, contrasting. I do believe there's not enough direction that the ARC committee, which I called design review for some reason. I was on that committee years ago, and it was always design review. So I agree with we need more direction, but in your case, you did a splendid job. And it seems like you were backed into a corner.
Right.
You have a roof that needs to be completed. Mm-hmm. We're going to get into the rainy season. Contractors you need to act. So I think this is exactly the forum that we need to decide on this particular case. But I agree that I think there's some ambiguity in the rules, and I don't want to say that this may have been an arbitrary decision, but it tends to seem to border on that an arbitrary decision was made, and you were kind of caught in the middle. So I tend to agree with your comments. I agree with Todd's comments. I've listened to, the liaison committee members' case, and I think you did a good case.
Thank you.
There were some circumstances involved that happened. You just want to replace your roof.
Right.
That is not dark green, dark blue, orange, or anything like that. That fits in to a somewhat color palette that we have throughout the community. So maybe we need to extend colors in combinations with homes. I don't know. That's not what your argument, okay? Your argument is simply that I need to replace my roof in a color that's been accepted in the community. It's not going to make it stand out, and I think that's the goal that we need to present to the residents, that we're not bordering on something where, we have some abstract colors. Okay,
Right.
so that's my comments.
Thank you. Stan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I agree that our committees need to be backed up 100%, for the work they do. And I feel that our committee did the right thing by denying you. However, I think that their hands were tied due to the verbiage of the rules that are able to slip by. If it's not specific and it can be grayish, then that's where we are here. That's what I think. Just like David said, it's not a bright red color. It seems, it seems natural, like other houses. And going back to the ARC, I think they did the right thing. But however, they just need to change the wording to be specific. That way, they don't get their hands tied behind their back again. So I agree with the new roof.
Can we restate the motion, Todd? Sorry. I'm so sorry.
You forgot. No, go ahead, Todd.
Help me fill in the blanks. I would make the motion that we accept her proposal on the roof color. And the second part of my motion is that it goes back to the art committee for refinement of the quote rules so we don't run into this again. How'd I do?
Very good.
That's good.
Just to clarify, but that refinement of the rules is it's not pertinent to your approval.
Right.
It's not a condition of your approval.
No, A is approval, B is send it back.
Right.
I would just like to have somewhere in there, and I'm fine with putting it anywhere I see fit if you are, approval of the request to appeal the decision of the, because that's what her request is.
Oh, okay.
And
If
second.
that needs a second,
It did.
I'll double second it.
It's already been,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
no,
2 noes? 1 no.
2 notes.
2 noes.
Okay, so 5 yes, 2 no?
5 yeses to 2 noes.
Thank you, I appreciate everybody's time. And I want to say that I really appreciate the work of the ARC. They were super kind to me. We had a nice conversation on Saturday. Unfortunately, like he said, I'm just caught in the corner.
good luck.
But I appreciate everybody's work. I know they're all volunteers, and I really appreciate it.
No, thank you
Thank
for
you.
your work. That was,
Thank you.
did your
Thank you
homework.
very much.
Thanks, Paula.
Best to you.
She did her homework.
Okay. Next on the agenda, also with ARC, name change, design review guidelines to design review standards.
The ARC committee was given a suggestion by Ms. Krieger to change the name of the committee from ARC, Architectural Review Committee, to I'm sorry, the DRG name change. ARC is requesting that the design review guidelines title be changed to design review standards. The reason for that is that the words are suggestive, whereas design review standards very clearly indicates that it's something that you have to meet, not just a suggestion. A standard is a level of quality or attainment and gives a more clear expectation. So according to the committee, we would I would motion that we change design review guidelines, that title be changed to design review standards.
Discussion?
Any discussions?
Any second? And then we
Or is
see.
this- oh, okay.
Yep. Okay, now discussion. Did you
So
have something?
I kind of looked this up on the website, and I click on design review, not ARC or architectural review.
Right.
That'll be changed through the communications committee.
Can I continue? So it seems like it's always been design review. I read through it, and there's a million places of design review, and there's another million places of standards. But it seemed like where there were guidelines, they were specific. Here's the guidelines. And when there were standards, they were specific standards. This is the standard. So are you suggesting that we change the entire process of design review, that everything reads standards by making this title change?
Yes.
So we have no more guidelines.
Well, I think that you're looking at specifically the letter of what's being in there. And the bottom line for the committee is that we don't want people to think that this is a guideline that they may or may not need to reach.
I understand what you're trying to say, but it's specific.
The document itself
When it
isn't
says
changing.
guideline, this is these guidelines. When it says a standard, like
Yeah.
when you have a cement wall, it says it. This is an architectural standard. To me, an architectural standard is a building and all that. To me, a guideline is almost representative of what we had here. There's a range of things that are options that fit within certain parameters. How can we have a standard with a range? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is not to add confusion, but I'm trying to be, for residents, we may have someone every week coming here, So to make everything a standard, I guess was my first question, and I guess you said yes. Well, then we need to revamp the whole thing because there's many, many places where it says design review. In fact, the title of that section, as was proposed when this development was put into effect, said design review. And there's actually a process that's enumerated that says this is the design review process.
The design review isn't the issue. It's changing the name of the document from guideline to standard. That's all this is. It's really simple.
Well, with respect...
They're not asking to rework everything.
Okay, well, with respect that I'm asking the committee member here, you said that you were going to change the guidelines to standards within that document. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And the reason
No.
being
Wait.
is
If there's Article 2, Section 5, 6, and all these enumerate, say there's 50 articles there, are you going to go, each one of those articles, 20 of them are guidelines, 30 of them are, you say, architectural standards. Are you going to change all of those to architectural standards? If this is a name change, it doesn't matter. If we change the substance of what's in there,
much more complicated.
matters. So that's what I'm asking. Because I think there's a lot of work to change the substance. Don't you agree, or do you not?
No. In a word processing document, you go in and you do Control F, and it finds the things for you. You can change every one of them. It's a very simple process. These guidelines are massive, and the key here is that at some point we want to reach out and glean all of the gray areas that we just encountered here, and we want for them to be very specific, very, very well outlined, so that anybody off the street can come in here and go, yep, I can have that with that, and we really do want to meet a standard. Just changing that one word from guideline to standard is not a big deal. It's just the convention within that document that we're going to do that. And the process of making that change is not complicated. It literally is a word search, replace with, and it's done. We're not looking to change the basic outline of what's being given to the homeowners, but we do have to refine that a little bit going forward. So yeah, it's going to be a standard, and people are going to be able to look at that and go, yep, I can have this and I can't have that. Not have to come before the board to get their tile roof changed.
I think I now understand what you're saying. However, I think, at least if you were to change every single word by a word processing to read standard, specifically architectural standard, I don't know if I'm ready to vote on that. I got to look at something that may have been a guideline before, and now it's a standard, whether that limits.
Seriously?
So
are you kidding me right now?
No, I mean,
Dave,
I'm
listen.
not trying to make it difficult. I'm asking the question.
But
I support your argument.
Sure.
Because I think I understand you. I think I understand
Can
Dave.
you help me?
And I think there's a misconnect.
Okay.
The word guidelines is misleading that people could have under a guideline any paint color they want. The standard should be, and will be, just from the change of the word from guideline to standard, will be you can choose whatever color paint you want for your house as long as your neighbor on each side doesn't have it. And it's a standard. Guidelines are allowing people to think, oh, I can pick any color paint I want. And it's just a guideline that I shouldn't have the same color as my guy on the right and my guy on the left. So guidelines is confusing some residents versus, no, this is what it's supposed to be. Does that make any more sense? Because it's just changing the word design review guidelines to design review standards. That's all.
It's
We're
like
not-
being called John or Jack. If they want to be called John, that's okay with me. Let them be called the name they want to be called.
Standards.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking it's going to be a lot
It doesn't
more
mean
work
it's an
involved
edict. It's just a name.
than it is, I think, if I'm understanding you correctly.
I don't know. In my mind, I still think a guideline and a standard are not equivalent.
Right.
The guideline shows a range, a
That's the
standard is
point.
specific. So if we are to change everything to one choice, in your example, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to understand.
Standard would be one choice.
Don't we have that any resident can choose any
And it
color
doesn't
from the
have to
color
be that way.
palette from
The reality
phases 1, 2, or 3 for their house?
As long as
and their outline.
It's in within a guideline of an accepted palette.
or standard. It's just a play on words. It's
Well-
letting the residents know that these are standards. It's not just a guideline, so that somebody doesn't go out and pay for paint and color roof they choose. Oh, well, that was just a guideline. You didn't say it had to be this way. So in lieu of, or in the event for what's coming to changes with the guidelines to become standards now, I think it matches changing everything to standards when they come up with the recommendations for more solid description of what is allowed, what is a standard.
Review, that's the point.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I guess it doesn't matter in the long run. What we call it is basically what we're saying.
Stan, do you have anything, or John?
I think I'd like to call the question. No,
Call it what?
call for the question.
Call for the question?
Yes, please.
Stan have a
Okay,
voice.
want to restate what the request is?
Sure. The motion to consider is changing design review guidelines title to design review standards. The key being guidelines will be taken out of the documentation and standards will replace that word guidelines. That's the motion.
Stan, do you have anything to add?
No,
Questions?
I got it. I'm ready for a vote.
So we had a motion. Do you have? Okay. We had a motion, right? And did we have a second, right? Okay, who stated the motion?
Yep, Todd second.
Did I say?
You did.
You did.
Start the discussion.
Exactly.
You caught me again.
I did.
So you made the motion. Who seconded it?
Todd
Todd
Brady
did.
made the motion, and Todd seconded.
You seconded it. We've had our discussion. I'm going to put this out to a vote now. All in favor of changing the word guidelines to the word standards, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against? Okay. Next,
Unanimously.
carriage lights for homes. Is that you too, Grady?
Yes.
Okay.
This may be something that most people haven't noticed, but the changing of the lamps on the outside of the garage doors or the carriage lights has become, I think everybody's done it. The ARC committee was tasked with coming up with a recommendation for the carriage lights on the homes. And this is a little bit longer, so I'll just read this outright. Exterior residential lighting. DER approval is required for a change in exterior lighting with the following standards. Exterior lights shall be conservative in design. Lights shall adhere to the following standards. It provides measurements and color. 8 by 10 inches wide. I think that should be 8 to 10 inches wide and 18 to 22 inches high. It should be of clear and or beveled glass. The color should be black or antique bronze, and it should be a carriage light style, which is very common. Most of these are. Pole lights in yards are prohibited. The reason that we're doing this is that many homes are changing outdoor residence lighting with fixtures that are not cohesive with the Caribbean colonial architecture per the original designer of the Sandoval community. The established architecture theme for Sandoval incorporates a subdued island style reflected in each building, home, or amenity feature. Island style is based in a traditional colonial architecture seen throughout the Caribbean and incorporates the sun, the breeze, and the vibrant natural environment of the tropical climate. And I think that what we're finding is that people are using non-clear glass. They're using designs that are very modern. Not to say that they're not attractive. Everyone has their own sense of taste, but we, as was stated earlier by Mr. Elkins, we all agreed to abide by certain guidelines. And this is what we come to the table with the ARC recommendation. The motion would be to accept those guidelines, that definition of the carriage lights.
Standard?
Yeah, standards. Standards now. So that's the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion, anybody have questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Todd.
So, and I appreciate the spirit in which this is being done. It's probably overdue. Are you going to grandfather folks in from a specific date, or are you going to go full blast and telling people that they need to change it now?
Oh, no. This would be treated the same way as any other non-approved change to your home. So, for example, if somebody put in a walkway between their houses, didn't get ARC approval, any change to the outside of your home that doesn't have ARC approval, it doesn't meet the standards that are set by the board and by the bylaws, the documents, the original documents, that becomes a violation. That has nothing to do with ARC. ARC is forward-looking. We do approvals of things based on the black and white standards that are listed. The issue that we have is that some people either are not considering or they're just thumbing their nose at the guidelines that we're supposed to, the standards we're supposed to live by, and what ends up happening is that one person says, oh, well, I've seen somebody else do that, and then they just presume that it's okay for them to do it. And unfortunately, it's not. And a lot of these things are a gray area, and they do have to be tightened up, because if you go in and look, the standards indicate the carriage light, and you have to get approval to change that carriage light. So they're doing two things here. They're indicating that your carriage light, if you replaced it, you need to get ARC approval, and it has to meet these standards that are defined here, these measurements, these colors, and that's just not happening. So a violation might come. I don't know what's going to happen.
So can I ask just a follow-up question? Mm-hmm. Would there be picture illustrations, provided so somebody like me who does not know the difference between a carriage light that's approved and not approved, will you be able to demonstrate that to somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. We did just a simple Google search of carriage lights, of these measurements and of these materials, and there's literally thousands of them out there.
Could you show examples in Town Square?
I don't think that it does. I don't know that Town Square has the capacity to do that.
What I could do for Town Square is do, like you said, you Google and we just look for the styles. Mm-hmm. I can put those in a Word document. I can put images on a Word document and post it that way.
That'd be a good way
It's
to get
the same way we have it on the website when you've got your swatches of paint colors and your roofing.
And in Live Center. Yeah.
Correct. And then as far as the following up on the violation question, I think the point that he's made is that anybody that did not put an application in, like let's say you changed your carriage lights out, but you didn't put in an application, but John changed his out, he does have an application. If he chose an Asian style, those real pretty elongated with the filmy colored glass on them, but it got approved, then he's grandfathered in. You didn't apply, you're not.
Makes sense.
I understand the spirit, but I think we have bigger fish to fry on the compliance area than going down streets and going, carriage light, no, carriage light, that's my only comment, and my only other comment would be, I understand the spirit, but I think there needs to be some type of a grandfather, so we're not going back and creating a hornet's nest. That's just my comment.
No, and we anticipated that particular response. You have to delineate between ARC, the Architectural Review Committee, and the guidelines or the standards that we go by. What we're talking about, this motion is just refining the standards that are published for people to use. As far as violations are concerned, I completely agree with you. It might be, I don't know, just 2 years before somebody would be able to get around to the point of looking at the carriage lights. So that's not what we're here to talk about, making people replace it. I know that everybody's going to read into that, but we're here to just refine the stated guideline, the stated standards. I'll never be able to stop using the word guidelines now.
Can we put maybe effective and then today's date?
I don't know that that is something that would, because I think that would be a question I would ask you. Is that a good idea based upon guidelines going forward?
The only reason I'm thinking effective date is because the folks that did put in an application would raise the exact question that he has. They're going to think, well, gosh, now do I have to redo mine? But if it's effective today, the same people that didn't put in an application are still in violation regardless. And like you said, could be 2 years before poor Terrence gets to that. He's up to his eyeballs.
He was taking a picture of my house the other day. So.
Well, if he was taking a picture of your house, there was something he spotted. So you might want to go home and take a look.
No, but I appreciate that suggestion, and I think
I don't know if it's a good one. It's just a thought.
I don't have a problem with incorporating that information in it, but I just want to make sure that we're clear that what we're doing here is refining the standards that are printed going forward.
What's in there right now?
It just says carriage light. It just refers to...
And then that you have to apply?
Right.
Okay, so no guidance at all as far as like you've got here?
Right.
Okay.
And in all honesty, based upon the whether we put a date in there or not, it's important to remember that when you tell somebody in black and white it's a carriage light, that kind of opens it up to interpretation. The issue that we're talking about here is what ARC uses to approve or deny changes moving forward. People who did it previously, that's an argument that I wouldn't be having because I don't do compliance.
Right. A different speaker.
So I will be glad to discuss this further, but the motion is to adopt those measurements and material requirements into the guidelines. That's the motion.
And not addressing compliance things at this time, correct?
No.
Correct.
Okay. No, I don't want to get involved in that.
I totally support what you're trying to do. At all. It's about time.
Yep.
So you made the motion and he's seconding again?
He did not say he seconded it.
Glad to second.
He seconded it. That's
Dave,
why we
do you
were
have a
able to
question?
talk.
It wasn't a question as much as I asked Vic. I can't hear what you guys are saying.
Oh.
So there's some sort of echo or static. And I had a question at the beginning before you started. Does this include pole lamps that are in the middle of like the lawn or in the back somewhere, like around a pool? Like at the ends of a pool, someone puts up a 6-foot pole light with 3 lights that may shine into my bedroom and into my living room?
That is going a little off base, but I understand the point that you're making, and the key difference is the light you're talking about inside their pool screen? Is it on their lanai, or is it outside in the yard? Because if it's inside the lanai, unless that light is aimed at somebody else's house, we can't make them do anything. So
I don't make a man at all, but there's no lanai.
So
you mean just a pole in the middle of the yard? That's already prohibited.
With a fence with no lanai, I mean screen. You mentioned screen.
Yeah.
But my understanding was, Coach, is it has to be attached to the house and shining from the house outward, not out in the lawn
These
shining
are about
back.
your garage lights.
Yeah.
These are about the carriage lights on the front of your home on either side of your garage door.
Yeah.
And
Is that what you're talking about?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
And I know what you're talking about, and I think I understand the situation that you personally have at your home. But that type of thing is something that we'd have to discuss later. That's not...
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion on the garage carriage lights?
Nope.
Okay.
Since I couldn't hear, I just want to make sure that we are our grandfather. people that have.
That's not a discussion
It's
we're
not
having.
part of
It's
the
not part of
discussion.
Just the adoption of this description to the standards.
Well, I have to say about time, I think, because I've seen all kinds of different coach lights.
Sure.
Big, small, thousands of lumens, no lumens.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes I wonder, what happened here, but at least you're coming up with a solution, so I applaud you for it.
Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Grady. Moving on to the gate system. Kathy, are you addressing this?
Oh, I can. It'll need a motion because it was already approved. Earlier in the week, I presented to the board and the finance committee through the capital form that was put into place in January, I believe, that was put into place. Can you do it?
Let me explain.
You want to do
To
it?
help
That would
you
be
out,
great. No,
okay.
because go ahead, because either way, a board member has to make the motion, so it's perfect.
So
You just got to ratify it.
we have a situation of fixing the gates and the arms. It happens to be elevated somewhat of a project. This gentleman out here does all this research, and I got this, and I got that, I got this. So the project process form is merely a face sheet. It puts everything down as to what it's doing, and at least there's a beginning and an end result. We have an expectation out of these repairs, okay?
Right.
So that's all that does. The argument is that that process, project process, is not a approval of itself.
Correct.
It's a means to approval. It empowers you as the general manager to collect data from people that are doing really honest work,
Right, we
hard work.
understand the meaning of the document. They want us to explain this motion. So do you want to take that, or do you want me to take it?
Well, why don't you make the motion, because
There's no motion.
I don't think there is a motion.
There is, but it's
already
very
passed.
brief.
It's already passed.
I can say what this needs to be about, but I need a first and a second after I explain it, because I'm
All right.
not authorized to make a motion. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Okay.
Yep.
What we had was a capital expenditure that needed to have action done before a board meeting could be held to approve it. So I presented all of the documentation as supplied by Mr. Devine to approve gate arms and towers for 2 entryways of the community that are vastly underworking their capabilities. The towers themselves are in very poor shape. After presenting all of the information to the board and the finance committee, it was approved as an emergency expense. So the motion today needs to be that the capital expenditure of gate arms and towers through Envira is ratified. And I need a first and a second.
I second that.
That's it. I need a first, because I can't give a motion.
I'll make the.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
All right,
Whatever.
then all you got to do now is vote on it, and you're done. That's it.
Rick's been working on this thing forever. Finally, we get
He's
some money
working
to
his
let him
booty
fix
off.
it.
I'd be lost without him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the parking lot after dark if we don't, because Rick would be out there waiting for us.
John made the motion, you seconded it?
Can I tell you guys what I'm actually going to do? So
Well, we're
Why
not
do
yet.
we vote on it?
It's already passed. It's already passed. It's already been discussed. We're good. We don't need explanation on the project because we got that already. We have the first motion. We have a second. Now it's going to vote. We had discussion too. So all in favor of the ratification?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. Okay, very gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, Rick.
We don't need to hear from him.
Next. It's all you there,
Okay.
Madam President.
Well, the one and only subject that I'm going to speak on is November and December board meeting dates are close for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I am making a motion that we hold the board meeting for the month of November and December on the 3rd Thursday of November and the 3rd Thursday of December.
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The other 2 miscellaneous issues are being moved to committees to discuss and come back to us at a later time.
Okay,
Oh, good.
I'll put that in
Good.
the,
Okay, old business, none, new business, none.
Yeah,
We
new
have,
business.
oh, I'm sorry, we do.
I asked
We
you
do
to,
have
yeah.
one new business item.
Well, the main thing is last year when we changed to a new board, a lot of the committee members didn't know whether they were on or not. And since we haven't constituted all the new committees yet, I would ask that all committee members stay on. You're on the committee until we get this thing constituted. And then, for God's sake, let's get some more volunteers. I'll ask specifically, my selfish reason is the Finance Committee, because I've been chairman of that for a year and I've been on it for 3 years. I ain't the best finance guy around. We need somebody a lot better than me to be on this Finance Committee. So you guys that have this kind of background, please come forward. We need at least 2 of you. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have the quarterly resident forum meeting April 6th at 5:30, and the next board meeting is scheduled for April 28th at 6 p.m. How do we end this? Somebody
Motion
call
to
it?
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we got resident.
No, sir. No, sir.
Resident comments?
John, no, you don't. That's on the
We're all done,
6th.
huh? We're all done. Okay.
We're done.
I adjourn this meeting.
Okay.